Good evening, you're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. Oman Association for the Students of Medical Professions sheds light on causes of metabolic syndrome in its first scientific conference in Muscat. In recognition of their hard work and giving in various walks of life, Oman Association for Elderly Friends honors a number of them in the third gathering in the Wilaya of Mudabi. More than 2.4 million people in Libya are in need of humanitarian assistance, according to the United Nations. Those were the headlines, and now for the news in detail. Under the theme One Team for Better Health, Omani Association for the Students of Medical Professions organized the first scientific conference on metabolic syndrome. The conference shed light on causes that lead to metabolic syndrome disease and latest care and treatment methods. Metabolic syndrome is a cluster of conditions that increase blood pressure, high blood sugar, excess body fat around the waist, and abnormal cholesterol. These conditions occur together, increasing the patient's risk of heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. The conference targeted students of medical professions in various specializations in medicine, pharmacology, nursing, and dietetics. In recognition of their hard work and giving in various walks of life, Oman Association for Elderly Friends organized the third elderly gathering in the Wilaya of Mudabi in the Governorate of North Sharqiya. An exhibition was held for some handicraft works by the elderly. The gallery also included several artistic, cultural, and entertainment activities organized by some public and private establishments and voluntary groups in the Wilaya of Mudabi. More than 2.4 million people in Libya are in need of humanitarian assistance, the UN has said. They also added that there is a lack of medicines, vaccinations, and suffer from poor hospitalization services. Almost 300,000 children are out of schools, and almost 350,000 Libyans are displaced within the country. The ouster of Gaddafi in 2011 plunged Libya into chaos, with rival militia jockeying violently for power. The latest fighting is centered on the coastal city of Sirte, where pro-government forces are pressing an assault against the jihadist Islamic State group. Syrian warplanes were again in the air over the mainly Kurdish-held city of Hasaka early today, despite a U.S. warning against any new strikes that might endanger its military advisors. Deadly clashes erupted between pro-government militia and the U.S.-backed Kurdish forces on Wednesday. The following day, the regime launched its first ever airstrikes against the Kurds. The unprecedented strikes against 6 Kurdish positions in the northeastern city prompted the U.S.-led coalition to scramble aircraft to protect U.S. Special Operation Forces advisors deployed within the Kurdish forces. Meanwhile, there was no let-up in the fighting on the ground, which has left 39 people dead since Wednesday, 23 of them civilians, including 9 children. Around 2/3 of Hasaka is controlled by the Kurdish forces, but the rest is in the hands of pro-government militia. Washington regards the Kurdish People's Protection Unit, YPG, as the most effective fighting force on the ground against the Daesh group in Syria, and has provided them with air cover and military advisors. The U.S. military has slashed the number of intelligence advisors directly supporting the Saudi-led coalition air war in Yemen. The U.S. Navy said today that the reassignment of personnel around June occurred because there was not the same sort of requests coming in for assistance from Saudi Arabia. U.S. officials have regularly urged their major Middle East ally to avoid harming non-combatants in Yemen. But Fifth Fleet spokesman Lieutenant Ian McConaughey said the U.S. reassignment of personnel does not affect their ability to support the Saudis and is a more efficient allocation of resources. He said the United States now has a limited number, less than 5, that are working directly on the advisory cell. The Arab coalition began air raids and later sent in ground forces to support the internationally recognized government of President Abed Rabbu Mansour Hadi after Houthi rebels and their allies overran much of Yemen. Russian naval and land forces practiced yesterday swiftly moving military hardware and troops to annex Crimea. The drills are part of a logistic exercise which foreshadows much larger war games planned on the peninsula for next month. The training exercise comes at a time of heightened tension between Russia and Ukraine after Moscow accused Kiev of sending sabotageurs into the contested peninsula to carry out a series of bombings. Kiev has flatly denied that. Specialized logistic troops had cooperated with Russia Railways and the country's merchant fleets to rehearse moving troops, armored and technical equipment to Crimea, which Russia annexed from Ukraine in 2014. Vessels from Russia's Black Sea Fleet had also taken part, including a submarine, a large landing ship, minesweepers, and an unspecified number of guided missile cruisers. Around 2,500 troops and up to 350 armed vehicles had also been involved. Still to come in our news bulletin. A zoo owner in Gaza Strips donated the animals because the zoo doesn't have the ability to give them anything.
هنا الرائحة العالقة بالذاكرة تأخذنا دهشة مختلفة لتبهرنا بجمالها الآسر حيث ملتقى الأسرة. امنح نفسك شغف التجربة، فهنا حكاية الجمال لا تنتهي. مهرجان صلالة السياحي 2016 من 15 من يوليو إلى 31 من أغسطس. عمان، المحبة والوئام.
Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Prime Minister Bin Ali Yildirim said today that Turkey's parliament approved a reconciliation agreement signed with Israel in June, which has brought to an end a 6-year rift between the two regional powers. Relations between the two countries crumbled after Israeli Marines stormed a Turkish ship in May 2010 to enforce a naval blockade on the Hamas-run Gaza Strip, killing 10 Turks on board. Israel, which has already offered its apologies for the raid, agreed under the deal to pay out $20 million to the bereaved and wounded in return for Turkey dropping the outstanding legal claims. Both countries are to appoint ambassadors under an agreement which is partly driven by the prospect of lucrative Mediterranean gas deals. Under the deal, the naval blockade of Gaza, which Ankara has wanted lifted, remains in force, although humanitarian aid can continue to be transferred to the Gaza via Israeli ports. Israel say the Gaza blockade is needed to curb arms smuggling by Hamas, who last fought a war with Israel in 2014. Firefighters gained ground against a wildfire burning in a southern Californian mountain pass that has forced tens of thousands of residents to flee and destroyed about 100 homes. The Blue Cut fire, named for a narrow gorge near its origin in the Cajon Pass, about 120 kilometers northeast of Los Angeles, has blackened 37,000 acres of drought parched heavy bush and kapara after breaking out on Tuesday. The blaze has destroyed 96 single-family homes and 213 outbuildings. Officials said firefighters were able to carve containment lines around 40% of the blaze, despite dry, hot and windy weather conditions and treacherous terrain. The intensely burning blaze, which has produced cyclone-like whirls of flame, continued to threaten some 34,500 homes and other structures in community, including the ski resort town of Whitewood. The blaze ranks as one of the most destructive California fires this year, rivaling the so-called Erskine fire, which consumed about 48,000 acres northeast of Bakersfield in June, killing an elderly couple and destroying 386 structures, including about 150 homes. Puerto Rico yesterday reported its first death from a paralysis condition that developed from a Zika infection as the U.S. territory fights an epidemic of the mosquito-borne virus. The victim was a man between 35 and 45 years old from the San Juan metro area who died from Guillain-Barré, the condition which can cause temporary paralysis and in rare instances death. The man was obese but did not have any other health conditions. The U.S. territory has a total of 13,186 confirmed Zika cases, with a total of 102 hospitalizations and 34 cases of Guillain-Barré. The number of Zika cases is believed to be much higher because 8 of 10 people have no symptoms and many do not go to the doctor. Those infected include 1,106 pregnant women, which is a concern because Zika has been linked to severe birth defects. An international charity is rescuing animals from Gaza Strip's main zoo that it is dubbed the worst in the world and transferring them to better lives abroad. Zoo owner Mohamed Udo said the animals are being donated because the zoo doesn't have the ability to give them anything. In the past, his zoo turned to taxidermy to keep its deceased animals on exhibit, while another zoo in the Strip painted stripes on donkeys to try and make them look like zebras. The Four Paws charity said tortoises and emu and other animals will be taken to a rescue center in Jordan, and the zoo's single tiger to a sanctuary in South Africa. The zoo is now closed. And now for the general weather forecast around the Sultanate. Cloudy skies will prevail over the coastal areas of the Governorate of Dhofar and its nearby mountains with intermittent drizzle. The rest of the Sultanate will have clear skies with scattered rain over the Hajar Mountains, desert areas of the Governorate of Dhofar and Wusta. Winds will be northeasterly light to moderate over the coast of the Sea of Oman, whilst in the coastal areas of the Arabian Sea it will be southwesterly moderate to active. Seas will be rough along the coast of the Arabian Sea with a maximum wave height of 4 meters, and slight to moderate along the rest of the coast with a maximum wave height of 1.5 meters. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Oman Association for the Students of Medical Professions sheds lights on causes of metabolic syndrome in its first scientific conference in Muscat. In recognition of their hard work and giving in various walks of life, Oman Association for Elderly Friends honors a number of them in the third gathering in Alaya of Mudabi. More than 2.4 million people in Libya are in need of humanitarian assistance, according to the United Nations. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsrooms and the studio, it's good night.